How the bail system failed. The chilling pattern behind the Keon King arrest. It was late in the evening of October 4, 2025. The quiet of Northwest Philadelphia's Chestnut Hill neighborhood was broken when 23-year-old Kada Scott, a young woman working an overnight shift at a senior living facility, walked outside for a moment and was never seen again. Just hours later, investigators determined that the last person to be in contact with her was 21-year-old Keon King. Cell phone data placed them together. A damaged 1999 gold Toyota Camry linked to King's family was found and tied into the case. Then the realization hit. King was no stranger to this kind of case. Earlier this year, he was charged with kidnapping and strangulation of another woman. The victim survived. There was viral video footage of the suspect stalking the home, peering through windows. But here's where things take a chilling turn for the worse. Despite the severity of the earlier case, King was released on bail. Prosecutors say they had requested nearly $1 million bail for him. A judge set it at around $200,000, permitting King to secure his release almost immediately by posting a fraction of that amount. In that earlier case, the victim and eyewitness failed to appear in court twice. Because of that, the charges were dropped. Prosecutors now say this, in part, happened because King had been free on bail and the victim feared facing him in court. So fast forward to the disappearance of Kada Scott. The same individual, freed by bail, now stands accused of something far worse. Prosecutors are asking whether the bail system that allowed a suspect with a violent pattern to walk free helped set the stage for this. Picture this: a man with a track record of alleged violence, walking free within days, a frightened prior victim who doesn't testify, a bail system that treats danger and privilege the same way, and then a woman disappears in the dead of night with this man being the last one to see her alive. The gap between just charged and charged again with something worse feels like a warning ignored. At the news conference, Larry Krasner, Philadelphia's district attorney, acknowledged the system failed. He said, "Preventing King from making bail could have made all the difference in the world."
And yet, here we are, in the middle of a missing person investigation, with King now being held on $2.5 million bail, a far cry from the much smaller sum that freed him before. ABC 7 Los Angeles 1. The question hangs in the air. Could the prior release have enabled the disappearance of Kada Scott? And what does this say about the bail system that allowed it? Inquirer.com+1. And now the suspense lingers. The pieces are starting to connect. The video of the earlier assault, the phone data, the gold Camry, the dropped charges. But the full picture, how exactly the bail system fits in, how one decision may have led to another, is still coming into focus. What happens next? How did the bail decision and the system around it open a door for this man? And what are the hidden rules and forces that let someone with a violent pattern roam free? The story of Keon King didn't start with Kada Scott's disappearance. It began months earlier in a small Philadelphia neighborhood where fear first crept in behind a cracked apartment window. It was early 2025. A young woman, whose name we're keeping private for safety, called 911 and whispered, "He's here again." The dispatcher asked who. Her voice shook. Keon King. When police arrived, they found her terrified and bruised. According to police reports, she said King had broken into her home, grabbed her by the throat, and threatened her. He was arrested on charges of kidnapping, burglary, and strangulation. Prosecutors said the details were disturbing. The attack was caught on nearby security footage showing King circling the home days before, peeking through windows and waiting. The case seemed strong. The district attorney's office pushed for high bail, close to $1 million, arguing that King was dangerous and likely to harm again if released. But when the case went before a judge, things took a different turn. The defense argued that King had a clean record and community ties. They said he was not a flight risk and promised he'd follow court rules. The judge agreed to reduce bail to $200,000, meaning King only needed to pay 10%, about $20,000, to walk free. And that's exactly what happened. Within days, Keon King was out. It was a calm moment in court, routine, quiet. But for that first victim, it was the start of another nightmare. Neighbors later told reporters that she rarely left her home. She moved to a new apartment, and when the trial date came, she didn't show up. The prosecutors waited. A week later, the same thing. She didn't appear. Without her testimony, the case fell apart. The charges were dropped. King was officially free. To many, it was just another closed file in a system overloaded with cases. But hidden in those papers was a warning, one that would echo months later when Kada Scott vanished. In Philadelphia and across much of the U.S., the bail system works like this. After an arrest, a judge decides whether someone waits for trial behind bars or goes home. The goal is to make sure the person comes back to court. But the system isn't designed to predict danger, only attendance. That's where things break down. People accused of violent crimes like kidnapping or assault can still pay bail and walk out the same day. Money, not risk, often decides who goes free. And in King's case, that freedom may have changed everything.
When reporters later asked District Attorney Larry Krasner about it, he didn't hold back. "We warned that releasing him would be dangerous," he said. "That bail was set far too low for the seriousness of the charges." But the truth is, this wasn't unusual. In Philadelphia, thousands of defendants are released every year on bail amounts their families or friends can afford, regardless of how violent their past looks on paper. It's a system critics call cash for freedom. Meanwhile, life seemed to return to normal for King. He posted on social media, was seen around the neighborhood, and even applied for a part-time job at a car wash. To outsiders, he was just another young man trying to move on. Then came the night in October, when he met Kada Scott. The two knew each other casually through mutual friends. Scott worked hard, often late nights, caring for elderly patients. Family described her as responsible, kind, and cautious. But on that night, King offered her a ride home. She accepted. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. Police pieced together her final moments using phone records and camera footage. One clip showed Scott getting into King's car. Another showed the same car hours later, returning alone. Investigators searched the area where the car was spotted and found something chilling: a shallow grave near an abandoned school. Human remains. When police knocked on King's door the next morning, he looked calm. But in his room, they found a shovel with fresh dirt and Scott's belongings hidden in a bag. He was arrested again. This time, prosecutors didn't hold back. They called it a predictable tragedy. They said if the bail system had worked, Kada Scott might still be alive. King's new bail was set at $2.5 million, a number far too high to pay this time. But for Scott's family, it was already too late. News outlets replayed the earlier case over and over. The judge's decision, the low bail, the victim too afraid to testify. It became a symbol of what many called a broken system that lets the dangerous walk free. As protests began outside City Hall, people held signs reading, "Bail shouldn't be a death sentence. Justice failed Kada Scott." But the question still hung in the air. Who is responsible when the system fails like this? The judge, the prosecutors, the lawmakers who wrote the rules, or the system itself? By now, the case had become national news. And while Keon King sat behind bars awaiting trial, Philadelphia and the country began asking whether the same could happen again. Because this wasn't the first time bail failed. And, as history shows, it likely wouldn't be the last.
It was the morning after Keon King's second arrest, and the courtroom in Philadelphia was packed. Reporters lined the benches, cameras flashed, and the air felt heavy. This wasn't just another case. This was a reckoning. The entr'd, and everyone rose. King, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, stared down at his shackled hands. Across the aisle, Kada Scott's family sat in silence. Her mother held a photo, Kada smiling in her nursing scrubs, full of life. The prosecutor began, "Your Honor, this case is not just about one man. It's about a system that let him out when it shouldn't have." For a moment, the room went still. The defense objected, saying this hearing was about bail, not blame. But everyone knew it was bigger than that. The prosecutor laid out the facts: King's prior charges, the earlier kidnapping, the reduced bail, the missing victim who never testified, and now the disappearance of Kada Scott. The judge listened, expressionless.
Then came the detail that shocked even seasoned court reporters. King's first bail had been set by a junior magistrate, not a full judge, on a day when the court docket was overflowing. Dozens of cases were processed in minutes. It was a system built for speed, not caution. The prosecutor said it plainly. "Your Honor, the bail system failed. It failed the first victim, and it failed Kada Scott." When it was the defense's turn, King's attorney argued that bail isn't meant to punish, it's meant to guarantee that the accused returns to court. He said, "Mr. King is innocent until proven guilty. No one could have predicted this tragedy." But the courtroom murmured, because someone had predicted it. Prosecutors, advocates, and even some judges had warned for years that the bail system was releasing violent offenders simply because they could afford to pay. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered again. They held signs that read, "Reform bail, save lives. Money shouldn't equal freedom." News channels broadcast the hearing live. Commentators debated whether bail reform was working or failing. Some argued that people like King prove the system is too lenient. Others said raising bail too high unfairly punishes the poor. But the truth is, both sides were missing something. The system wasn't balancing risk and rights. It was rolling dice. Back inside, the judge finally spoke. His voice was low but firm. "This case reveals something deeply broken," he said. "We are deciding liberty with math, not with judgment. And when that math is wrong, people die." He denied King's release. The courtroom exhaled, but the sense of justice was still hollow. After the hearing, Philadelphia's district attorney, Larry Krasner, held a press conference. Standing before flashing cameras, he said, "This is exactly what happens when dangerous people buy their freedom. The first case should have been a warning. Instead, it became a rehearsal for tragedy." Reporters pressed him on whether he blamed the judge who set the earlier bail. Krasner shook his head. "This isn't about one judge. It's about a culture, a system that values quick decisions over safe ones." The story spread fast, from local news to national headlines. Commentators called it the Keon King pattern. Others named it the bail loop, where violent offenders are freed, cases collapse, and new victims appear. But what made this case so haunting wasn't just the crimes, it was how predictable they were. Weeks after King's arrest, state lawmakers began holding hearings. Victims' families testified. One mother said through tears, "My daughter's life was traded for $20,000. That's what her safety was worth." Advocates for bail reform demanded new laws to keep violent suspects behind bars until trial. Judges called for more power to deny bail in high-risk cases, but defense attorneys warned that giving judges that power could lead to unfair detentions and discrimination. It was a storm of arguments, justice, fairness, and fear, all colliding. Meanwhile, detectives continued to piece together Kada Scott's final hours. Phone records showed that after picking her up, King's car stopped in a remote area for 40 minutes. Surveillance footage later showed him alone, buying cleaning supplies from a gas station. Evidence mounted,
and prosecutors prepared to charge him with murder. But the deeper they looked, the more they saw the same story repeating. Different names, different faces, same pattern. Someone dangerous, released on bail, another tragedy, another public outcry. The Philadelphia Inquirer published a headline that said it all: "When freedom costs a life." The city was now divided between those who believed in total bail reform and those who wanted the system torn down and rebuilt. And in the middle of it all sat one man, Keon King, silent, unblinking, waiting for trial, while two families carried scars that would never heal. As the third chapter of this real story closes, we're left with one haunting question. If this was a pattern, how many more are still walking free right now? The courtroom was silent when the verdict came in. The jurors filed in slowly, eyes fixed on the floor. Kada Scott's family sat hand in hand, barely breathing. Keon King looked straight ahead, cold, blank, like a man already somewhere far away. "On the charge of first-degree murder," the foreperson said, "we find the defendant guilty." A sharp gasp echoed through the room. Karida's mother broke down in tears. King didn't move. He didn't flinch. He simply stared as the judge spoke about life sentences and justice. But to everyone there, no sentence could bring peace. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters rushed to broadcast the headline: "Keon King found guilty. Bail system under fire." The story had gone beyond one man now. It had become a symbol, a living, painful reminder of how the bail system could turn one decision into disaster. In the days after the trial, Philadelphia streets were filled with anger and grief. Vigils were held for Kada Scott, her photo glowing by candlelight. People spoke not just of her death, but of the chain of mistakes that allowed it to happen. At one vigil, a woman took the microphone. She wasn't family, not even a friend, but she said words that quieted the crowd. "This isn't just about Kada. It's about all the people who don't come home because someone dangerous was set free when money spoke louder than safety." Those words hit deep. Within weeks, lawmakers across Pennsylvania began drafting what they called the Kada Scott Act, a proposal to reform how bail is set in violent cases. The bill would give judges more power to deny bail when there's clear risk to the public, even if the accused has money to pay. But even that sparked debate. Civil rights groups warned it could be used unfairly against poor defendants in nonviolent cases. Others said the system needed more data, not harsher rules. The arguments raged on, and the lines between justice and fairness blurred again. Meanwhile, inside the district attorney's office, prosecutors reviewed hundreds of old cases. They found dozens of examples where suspects charged with violent crimes were released on low bail and later reoffended. It was a chilling pattern, just like King's case. Proof that the system hadn't just failed once, it had failed many times, quietly, in ways no one had counted. One prosecutor put it bluntly: "We don't need to ask how the system failed. We already know. The question is, will we fix it before the next tragedy happens?" Months later, a documentary aired on national TV. It showed the timeline of the Keon King case: the first arrest, the dropped charges, the lowered bail, and the second arrest that ended in murder. Viewers across the country watched in disbelief. Families from other states wrote letters to the Scott family, sharing their own stories, loved ones killed by suspects who were out on bail. The pattern wasn't just Philadelphia's, it was national. In city after city, reports showed the same story: cash bail deciding fate, dangerous offenders walking free, victims left unprotected. But amid all that tragedy, something began to change.